Hello and welcome to the Classical Guitar LPs podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Powell. For this episode, I'll be coming to you from the sunny shores of Lake Okoboji near Milford, Iowa. That's about 10 miles south of the Minnesota border, located in northwest Iowa. My wife and daughter, youngest daughter, and I are up here for a camp where I'm the director of music for some students, and it's just a great time to rewind and relax. What better thing to do than to send out sort of a thank you episode to the listenership out there. I recently found out that my listening statistics went up and cracked over 15,000 listens to the episodes, and I'm just beyond belief. And so I thought I would use this opportunity to introduce myself and some of my background and my beginnings up till now with classical guitar. I hope you'll enjoy this process, and we'll be right back after these words. And we're back on the Classical Guitar LPs podcast. Thanks again for joining us for this thank you episode to the listenership that's out there. As I said in the introduction, my aim in this episode is to let you all know a little bit more about myself, about Aaron Powell the person, about my beginnings with the guitar, and I guess what I've done with the guitar in my time since starting to play it up till now. And like many other people, my interest in music was really amplified from my experience in school. Music was playing in my home an awful lot growing up. Heard awful lot of Motown and Elvis and Frankie Valli and that sort of thing going on at our home. Also, music in the church was pretty important. So my first experiences started not as playing guitar but singing in choir. But guitar always had a real place in my heart. I found my dad's guitar that he had in the home. He took some class guitar in the early 1970s, and the Conn steel string, which I actually have in my possession now, was a fixture in our house. And although Dad didn't play it very often or really ever, it was there, and I was fascinated by this thing. I wanted to learn how to play it. And so we had some guitar units in school. I remember both in 5th and 6th, and indeed in 7th grade as well, we had units on the guitar in our general music class, and I was just amazed by that, loved it, sort of, ate up everything I could in those sessions and started working on chords and that sort of thing. Then, as junior high progressed, I saved up some money and bought the Stratocaster copy. It was a Charvet Strat copy with an amplifier, and saved up some yard mowing money for that, and bought a Black Sabbath book and thought I was really the real deal. Learned how to read some tablature through that and from magazines, and some kids around town also played. We formed a little band, and we got really excited about that band. We held it together and kept that together for a few years, and there was an occasion in between 9th and 10th grade where we played an end of the school year party at a classmate's home, and we really thought we were big stuff because we put together, a 6 or 7 song set of some rock and roll material and had a great time with it. So I had also played guitar in jazz band, both in junior high and high school, and then during my sophomore year of high school in the 1992 and 1993 school year, I was fortunate enough to begin studying with Dr. Mark Weber. And my studies with Mark were great. We concentrated a lot on technique, on getting the finger independence from P, I, M, and A, and making sure the left hand was in the right place, all the things you do with your first classical guitar teacher. The funny thing about Mark was it really wasn't funny. A unique thing about Mark is he didn't refer to them as classical guitar. He just referred to it as guitar lessons, and I'm not sure if that was purposeful or we just didn't talk about it. But in any case, what I noticed a very direct correlation of when I was getting better in my guitar lessons, that my rock and roll and fun playing got better as well. And I know that there are many people who still use that formula today of using the classical methods to obtain skills in the rock and pop world, and so in any case, I experienced that as well. Those lessons went very well, and I decided in my senior year that I wanted to be a music major, And so we took the plunge looking at different schools, and I set up different auditions and things like that. One of them went very, very well, and a couple of them, the performance part of it, the aspect of me going to the school and playing, all of them went well. But I didn't really mesh very well, except for at the place I ended up going, which was Simpson College in Indianola, Iowa. Simpson College was about 100 miles west of our home in Wellman, in a town called Indianola, and which is just south of the Des Moines metro area in Iowa. Des Moines is the capital of Iowa, and so we were pretty close to that city center, I guess. And at Simpson College was a great and wonderful experience for me as well. I was surrounded by music instructors and music students who all deeply cared about honing their craft. And for me, the atmosphere at the Simpson College Department of Music was one where essentially you were part of a new family once you got there, and you had all these friends who were really good at what they did, and everyone had that same passion and drive to just be as best as they could at their craft, whether they were a singer or an instrumentalist or a pianist, and in my case it was a guitarist. Simpson College didn't really have an existing guitar department per se. There was one older student than I, and he did not quite graduate from the institution with guitar as his degree. That in my recollection now, but I really was the first one to graduate from that institution in 1999, with my major being the classical guitar. And my teachers pushed me very, very hard. They really took stock in me as a person and encouraged me, and it was just I look back on that time, it was a very wonderful era in my life. Now, since I was the first guitar major to graduate from there, my intent was to be a performance major when I started out at Simpson College, and my sophomore year I realized that was not going to be the right track to be on, because I absolutely had the support to do it, but what was going to happen was my classes were largely going to be independent study, and I was not really interested in a do-it-yourself sort of thing, and checking in and having to explain with the instructor that would sort of proctor all that. And so what I ended up doing was going music ed, but then had the opportunity to perform just as much as a performance major would have. And so I'm really, really grateful for my time spent at Simpson College. It was wonderful in many, many ways, and I grew both as a person and as a musician and a guitarist as well. My professors that really believed in me were among the department chair, Dr. Robert L. Larson, my academic advisor, my piano instructor, and mentor, Dr. Michael Patterson. Also, I need to mention Dr. Maria De Palma. She was certainly interested in my growth as a musician and very encouraging. Dr. Rebecca Gruber was our choir instructor, and she gave me opportunities to play with the choral ensembles with my guitar as well as being in the ensemble. And so just a great time. My teachers at the time when I was in Simpson College were Barry Martin and Paul Wilson. Paul Wilson runs a store in Urbandale, Iowa, called Yield Guitar Shop, and so I had some supplemental lessons with him as well during my time at Simpson. And I also had several occasions when I got back together with Mark and had some coachings on some material, which was very, very pleasing and wonderful. So that goes up to the year 1999, and I graduated from Simpson College having experience playing in orchestra pits for operas. If ever there was an opera that had a guitar part, it was usually something that it was asked if I could handle it, and it was great fun to do that. I did that both as a student and also on the professional level, getting paid for those things as well. And so that was some great experience playing in front of live people. And although they weren't there necessarily to see the guitar player, it sure put the pressure on me as a 20-year-old kid getting some of that done. So those are some great memories. fall of 1999, I took on a teaching position at a school district that's no longer in existence, I should say. But the remnant of it is called West Central Valley. So I taught at that school district for a year. There was a lot of guitar playing going on in those days as well. I was honing my craft. That prior summer, I should say, in 1999, prior to getting that first position, I had auditioned for a master class, and I did not get into it. This was for the Christopher Parkening master class out in Bozeman, Montana, and so I was down about not getting in there. That was an opportunity that I really wanted to seize upon. But the next coming year, I spent a lot of my spare time, a lot of my time when I wasn't working, honing my craft and continuing to practice. And so after my first year of teaching at West Central Valley, then I got hired on at Perry Community School District. And so the summer after my first year of teaching, I did indeed get accepted as a performer into that Christopher Parkening Guitar Masterclass out in Bozeman. So this was a second trip I made out there to Montana. The first one was the prior summer as an auditor, and I absorbed a whole bunch of stuff that summer. And then the following summer, accepted as a performer, and boy, that was a great experience to play in front of and alongside the caliber of the players that I was doing so at the time. Just a great experience for me, and I feel that I grew a lot, not maybe from actually being there, but it was from the reflection that was to come after being at that, and sort of growing from that experience, sort of like the tree rings that grow after a good rain or something like that. I'm not trying to get that poetic about it, but that was a great growth experience for me. And so then, after getting into that master class, I felt the need for some more education on the instrument, and that's when I went ahead and I looked at a couple of different places to go to. I was considering a school in the South at Georgia with a very particular teacher by the name of John Sutherland, and I was looking at some other places as well, and I ended up going to a school in Kansas City, Missouri, with a teacher by the name of Douglas Neat. And this is a very pivotal time in my life because I knew at that moment that I was going to go to graduate school. I was getting ready to turn in my notice to the school I was teaching at that I wouldn't be returning. I had also just started dating a lady by the name of Kim Chedister at that time, and she would later become my fiance and wife now for almost 20 years. And so a lot of things all happened at once right there. And Kansas City and Des Moines are relatively close to one another, but they are absolutely not. It's not something you would want to do a daily commute on. So that's why I'm kind of chuckling about starting to date my wife at that time when all these things are going on. But in any case, that fall of 2001, I did start at the University of Missouri, Kansas City, and to study with Douglas Neat. And so we all know what happened in September of 2001. So that was a quite the event that took place. My time at Kansas City was a time of tremendous growth and tremendous development. If at the beginning of my guitar studies, when I learned with Mark, it sort of said, hey, this is guitar. And then at Simpson College, I figured out the work aspect of it. This is how hard you can work on stuff and get things done. My graduate studies at the University of Missouri, Kansas City really were sort of about precision. And I think that's the way I'm going to go ahead and frame that up. With Douglas Neat, his teaching style was so very, very direct, and you would work on very specific things to achieve what you were trying to get done musically. We didn't really have a lot of time spent on musical interpretation, but he and I really worked on the nuts and bolts of how to get things done. I remember just really asking him all sorts of questions. And I'm sure at the end of our lessons, Douglas was like, wow, is this young man ever going to stop asking questions? I don't know anyway, but he gave me answers. Sometimes the answers weren't things I liked. That was one thing you could always count on with Doug. Doug was very, very matter of fact, and he would give you the path to what you were looking for. It just may not be sweet and rosy all the time. It was just sort of this is what you need to do that. The man is an amazing player, an amazing talent, amazing instructor, and those 2 years were very different from my years at Simpson College. I know that I had commented about the family sort of atmosphere and that sort of thing. That was not what UMKC was about. But at least I should say, for my experience, that was what Kansas City was not about. But sometimes you're in the right place at the right time, and I feel that those 2 years I was right where I needed to be. In fact, I know just about 6 weeks in to my studies there at UMKC, I had made a phone call to home. I was feeling kind of down about stuff and talking to my mom and saying, hey, I don't know if I made the right decision on this. I think I had a couple of lessons that maybe I was said, that I needed to work a little harder here in these areas and that sort of thing. And I just wasn't, I just really wasn't up about it. I remember my mom saying to me, well, Aaron, this is what you wanted to do, so you're down there. And it was really what I needed to hear at that time from my mom. And so sometimes people saying the things that you need to hear rather than what you want to hear are the good things. And so that really, a lot of playing went along during those years. That degree at the University of Missouri, Kansas City, I had to put on two separate recitals, and so in any case, those went off, and the repertoire from those were a lot of fun. I remember the standout things. Benjamin Britten's Nocturnal was one of the pieces I played, and also the Bach First Lute Suite, among others. And so Douglas was great about letting me pick the repertoire I wanted, and so all in all, a great experience down there. And also, I got to take other classes regarding music that I was interested in besides guitar. I know I took some conducting courses, and I took some extra music history courses because they were interests of mine. So my time in Kansas City was great. I enjoyed it a lot. Kansas City is a nice place to be. That fall of 2003, I took a position teaching once again in a school district just south of Des Moines, and at that same time I was offered the position of teaching adjunct guitar lessons at my alma mater for undergrad, which would have been Simpson College. And so if you're an adjunct instructor, what that means is that you are providing something that the college cannot do on its own with its core of professors, but you're asked to be there on sort of a supplementary basis. And I know that in addition to getting married that fall in 2003, I started my my professional academic teaching, as it were. Now, I had given guitar lessons since 1998, so that giving lessons wasn't a new thing, but giving lessons for a grade was new for me in 2003, and so that became part of my regular routine. And so the guitar studio started to fill up rather quickly, and I was maxed out, couldn't take any more students in that second semester, and away we go. And so with those first couple of years were full of opportunities. I was continuing to concertize and to give recitals, in many different things, many different entities, music camps that I would teach at. And even on the Fine Arts Series at Simpson College, I did neglect to mention that happened when I was in graduate school. I was a guest artist at Simpson, which was a lot of fun. That was a night when, I'm backtracking a little bit, but that was the same night that I played Benjamin Britten's Nocturnal at Simpson College, the same night that UMKC was hosting a very prominent player by the name of Sharon Isbett, and she was playing that work the same day, so it was kind of interesting that I couldn't be there for that, but missed a heck of a performance, I think, but I enjoyed giving my own at Simpson College that evening. Those years, right after graduate school, became very busy with regard to how guitar was functioning in my life. I came to a little bit of a a little bit of a crossroads point in 2005 where my additional teaching was becoming so much that I was faced with really wanting to know if I wanted to continue teaching during the daytime in the traditional school setting and also teach out 3 or sometimes 4 nights a week. And my inclination after talking to my wife about it, we decided together that no, that was not going to be what I was going to do. That indeed I was simply going to teach guitar lessons, and that was going to be what my career was. And was it ambitious? Yes. Was it a little risky? Yes. I'm very grateful that we went that route, and all I can do is say thank you to Kim for supporting me in that endeavor, and I'm sure glad we did that. It's been very exciting ever since that took place. And so now we're into the fall of 2005, and my studios, both at home and at Simpson College, were going along wonderfully. That fall, that summer of 2005, I got a phone call to see if I'd be interested in also teaching guitar at Grandview University, which is a school that's not very far from our home in Des Moines. And so now I was teaching for 2 different institutions, the same thing, and that was great. And here and there, I would cover a sabbatical for a teacher every now and again in a music history class or something like that. And so this continued on for several years, and concertizing for the different institutions, putting on an annual recital was part of my life, and so that was great fun. In the summer of 2007, I was then asked as well to teach guitar for the community college in Des Moines, and it's aptly named Des Moines Area Community College. And so now I had 3 post-secondary institutions where I was teaching at, so I really thought I was big time. And so the schedule got pretty crazy. I was driving certain places in the morning and then to another place in the afternoon, and there was all that management of those times and things like that. And then finally, for 2 years, from 2008 to 2010, I also taught for Drake University in their music department. And so my student load at that time in 2008 to 2010 was, somewhere between 45 and 60 students each semester, sort of constantly at all times. And that was a lot. That was an organizational hat trick to sort of get through and to make sure that I was following students' progress and that sort of thing. I am, now that it's been several years since that happened, since those years, I'm remembering them fondly. I do know that there were some pitfalls in those days, and some times when different student interactions were challenging, shall we say, and I was very proud of many of those students in those days, and I am still connected to a lot of them through the wonders of social networking, and there are some other things that come up with that too. I had an interesting duo of students that were sort of competing against one another at Simpson College in those days, and I don't know that it was an outright thing, but they really fed off one another, made each other work, and both of those young men are friends to this day of mine, and I think of each other with a little bit of a rivalry maybe, but anyway, I'm very proud of the work done with those students in those days. At Simpson College, I was fortunate enough to teach not only guitar lessons, but I also taught music history, specifically music of the 17th and 18th centuries, to music majors for several years there. I did the Discovering Music, which was a like a general music history class. And I also even taught guitar pedagogy for a semester when I had all those students in the guitar program. And so that was really flowering and going in a wonderful way at Simpson in those days. And so then we get to that summer of 2010. And in that time, basically I was asked by one of the institutions if I would like to be the choral director, the head choral director at the community college there. for DMAC. And so I went ahead and took that opportunity, and I juggled all those other things except for Drake. I did drop the Drake teaching at that time because it got to just be, it literally got to be too much. And the student population at Drake, the way that operated and worked, I would have to take a lot of time to make my way over there, and then with scheduling and things like that, sometimes I'd have a student at 1 o'clock, and then the next person would be like at 4, and so I just had some dead time in my day that wasn't working out real well for me. And so in any case, I went with the opportunity at Des Moines Area Community College, and I was the choral director there with that institution for the next 6 school years. And so during that time, we had another baby. I took a little bit of time off of concertizing. I took a couple of years off until our second child was 2. And so although I was still playing a tremendous amount, because I got the lovely opportunity of being the house musician, one of the house musicians for the culinary school at Des Moines Area Community College, and I have been the musical entertainment for that since the fall of 2007. And so this is absolutely a dream gig. My duet partner, Ann plays the flute, and I play guitar, and we play everything ranging from light classical all the way to jazz standards now. And you know, it's been a real fun and exciting thing, because she and I are both graduates of Simpson College. We both play together. Our rehearsals really are very minimal, and even to the fact that we play so well among one another that we really don't even have to practice per se. Sometimes we'll try new pieces out right there on the fly, because we've got such a great chemistry of playing together. And so that's a very fun and exciting thing going on. So in the year 2016, I was asked to come join the staff at Mount Olive, which is a Lutheran school where both of my children were attending. And I was invited there to be the music instructor. And so it was really an opportunity I could not pass up. I mean, the opportunity to eat lunch with your wife and your children and see those people at your place of work, I just couldn't pass it up. And so at that point then, I did hang on to my DMAC guitar teaching. And so it's just been a very exciting and fun-filled road, full of all these opportunities, and the guitar has been there all the way. One thing that I just love is that my own company, Powell Guitar LLC, it was officially formed in 2014. I've been teaching using that business name since 1998, and had a web presence since the following year. The original website on that web address, my goodness, it was just basically a poster with a phone number, of course, and now there's some interactive things going on with that. But in any case, the guitar and performing on the guitar has just been part of my life, really, ever since those early days in 1992 and 1993. As we come up into those years past 2016, of course, then you know, we had the year when we were at home, and I had amassed a whole bunch of long playing records or LP records or vinyl, as you would say it. A lot of it's rock and roll stuff, but then an awful lot of it I would hunt and peck and find different classical guitar records as well. Find them at garage sales or at thrift stores, you know, Goodwill or the Salvation Army, things like that. And so in any case, I was building up quite a little collection of these. And then a friend of mine, as he retired from the Drake Community School of Music, he asked if I'd like his record collection. And I said, well, sure. And when I went in there to go meet him at the office that he had when he was clearing it out, I was absolutely stunned. I had to take 2 trips home, and I had a whole back seat and a trunk full of LPs when I came home. And my wife, it looked like she had smoke coming out of her ears. What in the world are we going to do with all these records? And I, of course, found room for them. And a fair amount of those were guitar recordings. I'm really excited. I've had several of those have been played on episodes of the show so far, in addition to the ones I already had. And so, but in any case, I had always messed around with the idea and the notion of digitizing the LP collection. I thought, well, I'll never have time to do that. I'll never be able to do a thing on that order. And then, of course, the spring of 2020 hit, and we were home so much. And so over that era, what I ended up doing was sort of getting the idea from another show where they picked apart monumental rock and roll albums and talked about them. And that's sort of where I got the idea to do that for the Classical Guitar LPs podcast. And I just essentially applied those ideas and those notions, not knowing a darn thing about how to produce a podcast, not knowing a darn thing of how to do pacing and that sort of thing, anything about producing a show. And I reached out to a former student that I knew had a sports podcast. I talked to that student. He said, yeah, go with this company. They're great. So I did. I signed up for it, and I started doing a couple of these episodes, and lo and behold, people were listening. And now, here in July of 2022, just shy of 2 years of putting on these episodes, as it were, we have over 15,000 people who have listened to the show. And so in closing, I just wanted to once again say thank you to each and every one of you listeners out there who are listening to the Classical Guitar LPs podcast. I host the program on anchor.fm/Powell Guitar. That is a center where, if you are so inclined, that you can donate to the show. There are different avenues in which you can do that, and I would invite you to do that. I would encourage you to donate to the show if you like what you're hearing. It'll give me the opportunity to possibly upgrade some of the equipment that I'm working off of and to give you a better quality sound. As far as social networking, the hub of the show is Instagram.com/Powell Guitar. And then, of course, I have the website PowellGuitar.com. I have YouTube.com/Powell Guitar, Facebook.com/Powell Guitar. And those are just some of the ways you can get in touch with me. If you have questions about the show, if you're interested in guitar lessons, I offer both in-person and virtual experiences, all sorts of things guitar. So until the next episode, thanks again for listening. You've been listening to the thank you episode, the 15,000 listener episode. And until next time, happy playing. We'll see you later.